Hey, friend.
Everybody. Hey, how are you?
I'm good. How are you? How was Clear?
I didn't go to Clear.
Oh, you didn't go to Clear? I thought I saw a picture of you. What was the last thing you went to?
No, I was at by the way, hello, everybody.
Hi.
John and Tracy, your illustrious co-hosts. I went to a digital fraud conference in the city. So, no, but I was not at Clear.
There was a bunch of meetings last
I've never
week.
been to a Clear conference.
I don't go because it's in Florida. But it's in Vegas next year, so I'm going. Meet me in Vegas next year, okay? I want to go.
Right.
ISCPO is doing a bunch. It's going to be doing some stuff with them, so I'm excited. How are you? What's going on?
Awesome. I'm doing great. I tell you what, like the last three show recordings, you were on your own, then we were here with Adam together, and then I was on my own. I'm not liking it. And I'm not liking being by myself, and I'm not liking doing the producing either, as you know. So
I prefer when it's the two of us.
And Adam.
I always miss Adam, but I do prefer doing it together. So I'm sorry about that.
Yeah.
Where was I? I was doing something. Oh, I was in North Carolina.
Vacation. Yeah.
I was in North Carolina.
How was it?
It was good. We went to see my stepkids and the respective grandchildren. And I'm never going to have grandchildren of my own biologically, so that's as close as I'm going to get. So I do love visiting them. They're very sweet. Awesome. Neither of my kids want kids, so they've made that very clear. It is what it is.
Yeah. It's the generation.
I guess. We'll see. Mines have been changed before.
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
I'm really curious, as I have not met our guest, and I know that you knew her, and I'm really looking forward to learning more about her. How long have you known this person? She's exceptional.
I've known Lisa. So our guest today is Dr. Lisa Gick.
Oh, there's a doctor there. I did not know she had a doctor. Wow. Okay.
I don't think she was a doctor. But, Macy's and Bloomingdale's, when it was federated, used to run a leadership academy where they would bring in all top talent from throughout the corporation. And you'd go through like a 3 or 4 day intensive on all things leadership. And out of my almost 30 years of working at Macy's, I think that was the single best thing that I ever did was go to that Leadership Institute. And Lisa was one of the people that ran it. And so she's been in HR for quite some time. She's been in employee engagement. That's why she knows Michelle, my wife, from the Macy days. So I've known her maybe 25 years, maybe.
Nothing like dating us.
Yeah. By the way, I should point out that when I went to that Leadership Institute, I lost my wedding ring.
Okay. Where are we going with that? You lost? Why?
I don't know. It was very traumatizing. It was very traumatizing for me. It was very traumatizing.
And so you went and bought another one?
I had to.
Same one? Better.
Same one.
Yeah. You're a man of habit.
And I never told Michelle.
Oh, she knows now.
No, I'm just kidding. No, it was very traumatizing. It really was. And it was so stupid.
I bet you freaked out.
Because
I was playing with it or what?
You know what I was doing? I was in this nice hotel and I wanted to go to the gym after the day's events were over. So I took my ring and I folded it into a piece of paper and then put it into my bag. Because I don't like to work out with the ring on. And then when we were leaving, I was like cleaning out my bag, getting ready to, go to the airport. And I think I threw it away.
Yeah, that's not losing. That's throwing away. That's a rookie mistake.
It's a brutal mistake.
Every time with John.
That was a brutal mistake. So any of you guys listening out there, don't do what I do.
Oh my gosh.
Okay, so by the way, we have a great show. Awesome show.
Yep.
This is obviously season 2. This is our 25th episode of 2025. So, and I think we have 1 or 2 more before we take a break, and then we go from there.
You and I are talking about doing one on our own. I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah, we're going to you want to tell them what we're doing?
You know what? No, because we're already getting too late into this. We're 5 minutes into this.
It's too much talking going on.
Our illustrious guest. Sorry, guys. We're rambling.
You talk too much.
I do. I know. It's my job, literally.
So, ladies and gentlemen, Dr. Lisa Gick. Excuse me.
Hi,
but
Lisa.
You were not a doctor when we met. Were you a
No, I
doctor at
wasn't.
Macy's? Okay.
No, that was my act two.
That
Okay.
is so cool. I love that.
Yeah.
So
Life
Dr. Lisa
after
Gick is a
Macy's.
leadership scholar, an executive coach, and a former retail VP who founded the Curious Leadership Change Agency to help organizations build more adaptive, human-centered cultures. With over 25 years of experience, including Vice President of Employee Engagement at Macy's, Lisa blends her deep corporate insight with academic rigor, holding a Ph.D. in leadership and change from Antioch University. Did I pronounce that right?
You did.
Her research has led to the development of the Curious Leader Capacity Scale, a business tool that measures how leaders foster emergence, openness, and experimentation, as well as humanness. Today, she teaches at Mount St. Joseph University and works with teams to turn curiosity into practical leadership advantage. This is one of my more favorite bios, but welcome to the show.
Thank you. I'm so glad to be back with my retail colleagues. It's been a long time.
We are special.
Back, kicking and screaming.
We are special.
Yes, we are.
That's the word we're using. Lots of changes today being announced in the industry. It's going to be more interesting.
Yes.
Is that true?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I must be living under a rock today.
Well, I can't say it yet. I've just got a bunch of emails this morning. So sometimes I found out first. I get the, oh my God, I just got the phone calls, and I get them from 10 people at the same company. So I know something's happening.
Oh,
yeah, I know. It's not good.
hate that.
Anyways, it's going to get better.
It will.
So the name of your company is what again? Curious Leadership Program?
So my company is called the Curious Leadership and Change Agency.
Okay.
But I guess I should say my interest really revolves around the notion of being curious as leaders. And so a lot of what I do with organizations and people to really hopefully inspire that sense of curiosity that I think is really going to be, it has been important. It's going to be even more important as we go forward with all the.
Because if we're not curious, we don't learn, right?
That's right. That's right.
Every prep I give a candidates is like, I want you to go in with the mindset of being a curious consultant.
Nice.
Of an exchange of information. So I love that. So you were in retail, but what did you see missing? What was your muse, your impetus, if you will, to start this? Where did you start formulating your ideas, and what was the pain point?
Yeah, so it's a great question, Tracy. I don't know about the both of you, but honestly, early in my career, I really never expected I would land in retail. I'm incredibly glad that I did, because that's where I was really inspired around this notion of being curious. And as you both know, in retail, you're only, as good as the turtlenecks you sold in the last 5 minutes. And we always had data available to us. And so we could kind of move and shake very quickly in order to support the business and the people of the business in the best way possible. And so the notion of curiosity was batted around a lot, quite frankly. Just how do we really extend our thinking and our openness around being curious in order to drive business in the industry. And so I loved it. I loved the pace. I recognized then that I was more of a possibility person as opposed to more of an analytical kind of mindset. And so I always really enjoyed the notion of getting together and problem solving and being creative around the business, and curiosity was such a central part of that. And so when I decided to make the transition after several years of working for the company and starting my Act Two, as I mentioned earlier, I really wanted to get more deeply into this idea of curiosity, because we really quickly, and I think very easily, often say, hey, let's be more curious or be more curious, but we really didn't know what's underneath that. What kind of behaviors, what kind of capacities are needed in order to really extend yourself in that way, and to use that as a tool that can work to a leader's advantage. And so that took me into my PhD study, where I did a lot of research, and I started working on the concept of curiosity in that space. I kept getting affirmed in what I was learning, and so I decided to build my consulting and coaching company around that idea as well, and present itself, right, as an opportunity in the space for leaders. And I really do believe that as the world gets much more complex and we cannot know information quickly enough in order to be able to respond as businesses with what's ahead of us, that we have to get really comfortable with just being curious and experimenting and trying new things. So that's what got me started.
I love it.
Yeah.
Wow, deep, great answer.
Lisa, so you have instant credibility with our group, with our audience, because not only have you dedicated all of your academic studies, you're a doctor in leadership, but you spent 25 years in retail, which is a lifetime. And you know how that goes.
Yeah.
So go back to the retail days in driving engagement and leadership and things like that. What are some of the things that you identified as being an opportunity with retail leaders back then that you were able to incorporate into your new program?
Great question. One of the things that I think was really remarkable in my learning in retail around leadership was that everyone interprets the idea of leadership differently, right? For some people, it is recognized as a role. Some people, and by the way, this continues today. This is not just from what I learned there, but it did inspire me a little bit. Some people look at C-suite professionals as leaders. Some look at individuals who lead teams as leaders. And there are so many different impressions of what leadership is, which makes it very difficult sometimes to engage people in learning and growth around leadership, because there are often other barriers we have to get through in order to do that. And so that has kind of led me into the research, and in a way that I define leadership as everyone. Everyone has the opportunity to step into leadership, whether it's leading self, leading others, or leading larger systems. We all participate in some way and have an opportunity to step into that. But that is not everyone's point of view. So, but I share that because I think that will help conversation as we go along as well. The other piece of that is in a company or in an organization, and I actually see it in my teaching now, where here at the Mount we're training accountants and marketing professionals and experts and finance experts. Not everyone in an organization is expected to know all of the disciplines, right? We hire an accountant, they focus on that particular part of the business, and that's an incredible contribution, a very vital one. But yet we expect everyone to be leaders in some way. Same with my students here. We don't expect them all to have the same technical expertise, but we do expect all of them to launch as leaders of and how they identify with their future. So that's one of the things that was really apparent to me as I was learning and growing in my retail space, is that there's this information, and it's kind of confusing about what leadership is and who is a leader and how do we galvanize around that in order to create the kind of momentum that's important. So that's and that still is something to contend with, honestly, in a lot of different environments. So I hope that was a helpful context. Yeah, context building.
I have so many questions from that comment. So leadership is, in my mind, so much kind of a concept, like it's a process, right? A state of mind, maybe. It's to be of service, too. There's so many components of it. John had mentioned something when you were first telling me about you coming on board called the Curious Leader Capacity Scale.
Right.
What is that?
Right. So as I kind of continue to pull this thread around curiosity related to leadership, I wanted to kind of offer a framework for leaders to consider. And I really felt compelled to the notion of curiosity, as we talked about. And so as part of my research, I built a scale. So I did a qualitative and quantitative study around the notion of curiosity as it relates to leadership. Did a deep dive study into curiosity in general, which really hasn't been studied for a substantially long period of time, but there was not a lot of literature around curiosity and leadership. And so my study did an examination of that space and made room for curiosity as a leadership principle, and also built a scale so that leaders could measure their capacity of curiosity And then with that knowledge and information, be able to determine how and what they might want to practice in order to develop that skill further. It's not a natural inclination for
not a
lot of
concept
people.
I had even considered. So is this like an assessment with lots of different questions and restated in different ways to see how you process and look at stuff?
Yes.
Wow. Okay, cool.
So there is an
I love
assessment
those.
tool, and yes, so it's something an individual can take and have evaluated and be able to determine how they situate in really 4 domains that the tool describes. And those domains which I study validated around curiosity in leadership is the kind of notion of experimentation, being able to engage experiments and being comfortable with experimenting. I look at that as a bit of a reframing in the business around risk taking. You know, we grew up really being reinforced around the concept of risk taking, and risk taking can sometimes be hard for individuals. But as the world moves quicker and quicker, we have less information, we're working in much more of an environment of uncertainty. The notion of experimenting is just a really nice reframe around that, because it's a learning, right? We're going to try things. Sometimes they're going to work out and sometimes they're not. But regardless, each case, we're going to know something that we didn't know before. So it's a way to generate knowledge that we can either carry forward, or we can say, hey, I'm ready to let that go. I don't need that anymore. I'm not going to ruminate on that or try to keep pulling that forward.
That's
so
where I
that
get
notion,
stuck.
yeah, right.
It is.
Well, and, you know, as leaders, sometimes we do get really compelled to our ideas and assessments about things. And so that notion of experimenting gives us the freedom to be able to try things, first of all, right? Just to be able to say, okay, if I'm experimenting, I'm not going to lose a great deal, but I am going to learn. And so it puts everyone in a much stronger learning space. So there's that. There's also this notion of emergence that, again, over the last 10, 20 years, we have increasingly find ourselves working in a world where it's emerging as we go, essentially. And
so is emerging and evolving kind of the same thing?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. And so a great example of this, and I can harken back to my 25 years ago, you know, we used to build plans like nobody's business, right? Big binders with big plans, and they were, you know, plans to execute big strategies. They were 2-year plans and 3-year plans and 5-year plans. We don't have that luxury any longer, because the world is moving much more is moving faster than it was. Right. But it's a huge mindset shift, right? And this notion of being curious gives us a chance to say, all right, I can accept that I don't know. And if I kind of exercise my curiosity around this, I will discover, if not what I need in 3 months, but what I need tomorrow or what I need today. I can make a decision for now, and then I can step into that decision, and then I can look around again and I can say, now what? I may have thought I might go from 1 to 2 to 3, but now that I'm at 2, I might need to go to 2B instead of 3, given what I'm learning in this space. So that sense of curiosity that we can carry with us makes us much more adept at being able to read the landscape in the moment and be able to make more, powerful decisions without, you know, substantial concern about risk or, you know, the outliers.
I got to say this, John. I know you're going to have something to say next, but my observation of our industry and the people in our industry is I say we, I'm not the we, but I'm the we. The people go to for the answers. You know, we're the ones that are solving the problems, that have the risks at our doorstep, that are looking for the solutions. And it's got to be hard with all the tech and all the pressure and the 24/7 of retail to stay in that mindset. Like, that's a big challenge and very stressful. I just want to kind of acknowledge that our industry is on the cusp of that all the time, right? And the being curious piece and how it plays in and utilizing your team, that's a lot. So great observation on your part for all of that.
Absolutely. And good segue, because I want to be able to see what we can, you know, any practical tips or advice that you can give to the team. So, you know, so when we talk about like the retail leaders that are on this call, I would probably say the majority of them are leading from afar. So you're based someplace, you're traveling all over the place, and you have
Right.
people that work for you, whether they work in a store or they're a regional or a district person, but you're not face to face with them all the time. You're on the phone, you're video maybe once in a while. What are some things that some tips or something that we could give to them as far as what is probably the best takeaway when dealing with that type of leadership model?
So I can give you a quick tool that people could start practicing today that kind of enables more openness around the space of curiosity. And it's very simple. It's going to sound incredibly simple. And sometimes it's very hard to practice those, which is why it takes us kind of some intentionality around doing it. One of the four constructs that we have here in the model is around openness, that we need to be able to engage in openness in our experience in order to be able to learn and grow and produce in this time that we're working in. And we have this concept called high curiosity questions. And I'll just give you a really quick rundown of the distinction between high curiosity questions and other types of questions we might ask as leaders. So we all learned when we were younger that there are really two types of questions. There are closed-ended questions, right, where we're just looking for data or information. And then there are open-ended questions where we tell stories and people can listen and ask us further questions about those stories as we gather data in that way. High curiosity questions are just a distinction of open-ended questions where the question will begin with the word what or how. And let me tell you why that's important and helpful. Most open-ended questions, many of them, yet generally lead with the word why. Why did you do it that way? Right, when we're working with our team, or why did you do it that way, or why did you decide to take that approach? And when we start with the word why, I don't know if anything comes to you as I say those two phrases. But,
Defensiveness.
Yeah. Thank you, right? So immediately the receiver can shut down a little bit. And when we shut down, we break that connection. So nobody's going to learn in that dialogue anymore. I'm thinking, oh, shoot, I didn't do it right. So now what do I do? How do I recover here? And the person I'm talking with, the leader I'm talking with, probably had absolutely no intention of creating that kind of environment, but just simply the question being received in that way has now interrupted their opportunity to learn as well. So if I change that why to a what was involved in making that and taking that approach? It immediately kind of neutralizes the experience, right? What was involved in taking that approach? So now we can both engage in really a meaningful dialogue around the experience without feeling that same sense of, marginalization is a big word, but without feeling like we maybe have made a wrong move or done something inappropriately. So we both grow, right? We both learn. So we're able to uplift our team member, and we're also able to get what's important to us as leaders in order to support the business and our team in a really meaningful way. So high curiosity questions, what or how, 99% of the time, if we lead more with those words, we will be in those neutral positions and the learning will be magnified.
Got it.
Yeah.
Also, a really good parenting tip. I'm wondering if that's going
Yes.
to work on my 20-year-old. I think it will.
That's a great idea. That is awesome.
I'm just saying, right? So, like, what, why? I use why
Yeah.
a lot in my house. But John, too, I mean, you are an interviewer, right? An investigator. How can that apply to, like, the Wicklander Reed, right? Interrogation kind of concept of those open-ended questions. Do we also use them on our team, right? Or do we just use them in the interview room? What do you think about that?
I think there's could be a slippery slope there, because don't forget, a large majority of our audience are Wicklander trained. They're certified forensics interviewers, so they know this stuff. So,
but are they using it on their team or just in the room? Do you know what I mean?
Well, if they're using it on our team, they're most likely using it on teams that are also trained interviewers, so that could backfire quickly. Now, it's probably a good question. Probably it's a good question for the WZ team, but I would think that the more human that you are and vulnerable, in my mind as a leader, opens up the opportunity to be more curious and interested in the people that work for you.
Yeah, it does also have an impact on power dynamics, which is probably very typical in the industry as well. But certainly we notice, for those of us who may not always work with loss prevention and security professionals, we do notice too that power, to the extent that we can establish some power evenness, again, that is going to create opportunity for people. And we'll have a lot more success and growing individuals who will contribute really meaningfully and also have a stronger element of success as they want to achieve in the organization.
So this really builds that collaborative morale, like within the whole company. As a recruiter, I see when I get a number of, like, somebody comes in a new leadership role and all of a sudden I'm getting 5 resumes, like, get me the heck out of here. You see turnover, right? Based on leadership perspectives and philosophy. I would imagine, and please tell me how, this would increase employee retention. I mean, you can say, reduce turnover. Okay, fine.
Sure.
They're the same, but I usually like to talk in the positive versus the negative, whatever. I learned that honestly because I had to get retrained in parenting when my son was diagnosed with autism.
Yeah.
And how I had to instruct him to do things, to do this. It wasn't don't do this. It's like I had to give him direction. And it helped in a lot of ways in my life. But anyways, how does this really increase employee retention and promotability and all that good stuff that we want to see in our teams?
Right. And thanks for that question. I think I will preface it with, well, I personally have not yet studied a direct linkage to retention with this research. What I can share is that many of the outcomes of this research are connected to retention. As an example, the nature of openness, honoring humanness, all of these are relational, impact our relational experience with each other. And one thing we know about leadership today, one of the key features of being a successful leader is to have that relational posture, right? Is to get to know people and create a relationship that is trusted and is mutually uplifting. And in those relationships, we know there's greater creativity that comes from that. So we're going to serve the work that we do together in a much deeper way, but we're also going to be connected in a stronger sense of engagement, so that those relationships can endure longer in organizations.
So based on what you just said and that whole concept, okay, what generation are we in now? What are the 25, 27-year-olds? Gen like XYZ? What are they? Whatever they are right now. I can't keep track. I would think that this philosophy and leadership idea is imperative to keeping these kids, young adults, on your team, employed, engaged, positive, because they're all about the communication and the support and all that. It's huge, because if we come in with an authoritarian, old school leadership style with this generation of employees, we're screwed. I think.
It's a great observation. Oh, go ahead, John.
No, I'm sorry. Yeah. Oh, what do you think?
I think it's a great observation, and I do notice it with the students that I work with, traditional students and also graduate students here at the Mount, and I do notice it as a really important notice on their part. And when we practice and engage in that way, it is a much richer experience than when we don't. And so I think you're spot on with that. I also think, as I mentioned earlier in our conversation, where we're headed with the pace of change, I do have some concerns that we have not necessarily been adjusting to the need to adapt as quickly as we're going to need to do now that we're getting into generative AI in such a very deep way. And so it's going to require us to really show up very differently than we have in the past. And practicing some of these tools is going to be really helpful.
Honestly, terrifies me, because I don't know if I have much more in me. Like how much I've had to grow this last year and a half with marketing and social media and all the... It's a lot. And I think we're all kind of worn down from it. We're all just inundated with data, and we're still organic human beings. I don't know where the balance is going to come.
That's right. One of the things that's also inherent in this work around curiosity, and this is a really simple one, is just the practice of reflecting. And I know that sounds really trite, but the world moves faster, we move faster, we get caught in that same kind of vortex. And we do notice and know that when we do take time to just kind of like, hey, let's take a break and just think about this for a minute, we can galvanize with a lot more strength and sensibility and meaning. And so even just, taking a 5-minute walk or a quick pause, getting by yourself for a minute to take a break, so important to do in order to really come forward as a leader with a mindset that's going to be meaningful this new day.
Awesome. I got one last question for you,
Sure.
Lisa. And that is, take your retail experience and now your academic experience.
Mm-hmm.
If you have to give one piece of advice to our leaders on the call or watching the show today, what is something that they could take back that could like make an instant impact or be seen positively
Mm-hmm.
by the folks that report to them?
Mm-hmm. Quiet your expertness. We all, we've trained for years to be experts in the work that we do. And one of the things that I think is critical, and it's a principle here in this notion of curiosity, is that we do have to be willing to sit and be quiet for a minute so that we can hear, so that we make space for other people to be creative. We've got years of ideas in our practice that we can offer, but as the world continues to shake and move, new things are going to be needed. And our practices may be helpful. What we know and what we learn and our expertness certainly will be helpful in some way. But in this new time, we really need to learn how to quiet our own expertness and make room for our teams to be able to offer and bring their thoughts and ideas and let us learn from them. We don't need to have the answers. We just need to help enable the answers. And so
that's great.
Yeah, help ourselves be quiet.
Oh, that's a good tidbit. That's awesome.
Yeah. Do you, I know the company-wide, you do corporate stuff too. Do you do individual coaching as well?
I do. I'm a certified leadership coach. I've been doing that for about 14 years. So I do coach professionals. My practice seems to kind of center around, and this is just by gravity, but center around mid-career professionals who are either curious about or experiencing changes or kind of looking to learn something more that they are now noticing. And I love that. It's really, it's great for me because it does keep me in the spirit and space of where people are working and how they're acting today in the space of work, leadership, and it's really gratifying work, honestly, really gratifying work.
So just to clarify for anybody who's listening and is wondering, okay, well, could she help me with what I'm going through right now? Give me a couple of examples of key points that people come to you with that you help them with. That might resonate.
It often lands around a point where maybe a stuck point where I thought I knew where I was going, and now all of a sudden I'm feeling like I'm getting information or feedback.
Like career path goals, stuff like that.
Changing
industries, moving forward in your current one, that kind of stuff.
That kind of thing. Also stuck points around capacity. I'm really interested in moving further in this space or in my career here. And there seems to be this thing that's getting in my way. How do I uncover that? And how do I understand what that is so that I can make the changes that are needed in order to move forward?
So Dr. Lisa, I love that, calling you that. She's got a LinkedIn profile page. Is that the best way to get a hold of you, or
Yeah, so thank you. Definitely there. I also have a website, thecuriousagency.com. Leaders and others can find me on Substack as well. I have a passion of trying to make leadership insight in the modern space accessible to everyone. And so I'm going to be doing some writing about it there as well.
Oh, nice. Thank you.
We'll make sure we put links out there for you.
Thank you.
To your site and any maybe one-pagers or anything that we could post when we post this out there. That would help people would be great too. Absolutely.
I would love to get a couple of examples of curious questions that we can put when we post this to let people know one of the key points that I love hearing about on this talk. So that would be great.
I have a good list for you. I'll send it over.
Okay, cool. That would be great.
Great. Thank you so much, Lisa. Dr. Lisa. I'm not used to saying Dr. Lisa. I like Dr. Lisa.
Well, thank you for having me on your podcast. I know I've been watching you for a bit, and it's great, again, as I mentioned, to be back with retail colleagues, and congratulations on all your great work as well. And I'm looking forward to staying connected.
Thank
Awesome.
you.
Very cool.
All right.
All right,
Take
everybody. Care. Thank you, Lisa, for being an awesome guest and sharing your wisdom with everybody. That's another edition of the Securing Success Show. So until next time, take care, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.